Morning crew, and welcome back to the Andy Mechanic YouTube channel. And yes, I'm still on holiday. I've got a few more days before I'm due back at work, which means I've got a bit of time on my hands, not just to make videos, and I hadn't really planned on making any videos today. I've got a lot of work to do on an ROV outside, but as part of that job I've got to remove all the pistons from the calipers. And Ben took the calipers off for me, but he forgot to pump the brakes up and push the pistons out before he removed them. And I've been meaning to make a tool for in the workshop which will hydraulically pump those pistons out, and also allow me to test for piston retraction using fluid rather than compressed air. Just a bit easier. I can do it at the same time before I refit the calipers. So I had lying around from the old RoV4 the clutch master cylinder. So I'm going to use that. It's got a single output, which is what I wanted. And as an example caliper, again the RoV4, which all the parts are pretty much gone now, we've got the front caliper. Now this one here, you could use a punch and just punch the piston out of the caliper, which is one of the techniques that I do use. And on this particular caliper I could do that. I could just punch it out. I wouldn't need this particular tool that I'm going to make. But on a regular basis, the input for the hydraulic fluid, where the banjo bolt fits, isn't central to the piston. Sometimes it's nowhere near the piston, and under those circumstances you can't use a punch to extract the piston if you've forgotten to pump it out on the vehicle. So using that master cylinder and some spare bits of bits of steel and stuff I've got kicking around, I'm going to knock up a little rig that will allow me to do this. And I thought this might be quite useful for a few of you guys to see how I'm going to do it, and maybe you'll make your own. Who knows? I was very fortunate actually. Obviously I'm going to have to make up a hydraulic hose to go between the clutch master cylinder and to fit onto the banjo of the calipers. And I've got one of these kits, and this came from the UK, and I use this an awful lot on our ATVs. On the bikes that we used, they came originally with a drum brake at the back, and we modified it to take a Suzuki Jeep front brake caliper and made up the discs and everything on the lathe, so we could have a hydraulic brake at the back, and that kit was really useful for that. However, here in New Zealand, using a kit like this is illegal for any bikes that go on the public road, and let me explain to you why first before we get started. The law changed in New Zealand not so long ago, and this style actually, it has a little olive that you use inside. There you go, look, it's still there, thank God. And you use the olive, and we've got the braided hose on a reel, very neat and tidy, and that's actually a MIG reel that I put it on. And you flare the end, and I'll be doing this to camera later on, but because you can basically undo it with a nut, that becomes a warrant fail. Nowadays, I think the law changed 4 or 5 years ago now, it has to be a crimped end, and that makes it very difficult when it comes to replacing brake lines on motorcycles over here and cars, where you have to either have a crimping machine, which I don't have, or you've got to order the correct hose. And the problem you have with those is the hydraulic hose doesn't really twist, so you've got to get the orientation. Let me show you. If you had, let's say, a couple of banjos on there, so you have one at each end like that, if you've got to get your angular alignment correct for your banjos, because you can't twist the brake line. And I'll maybe demonstrate that when I make the hose, but you've got to order it with these in the correct orientation and then crimped on. Whereas when the nuts and bolts, well, when they've got like an olive type fitting like this, you can just slacken it off, twizzle it around a bit and tighten it up, and it takes all the stress out of the flexi pipe. But that's a whole different story. So this video we're going to be actually covering how to make one of these pipes as well. Golly, so much to do. There is no real plan. I haven't designed this. I'm just going to wing it, and we'll see how we get on. It's not going to be overcomplicated. It needs to have a good strong lever, because remember, this rig is designed to remove seized pistons, or pistons that are at least semi-seized in the calipers. Now, in the past, for really stubborn ones that I couldn't use a punch, I've actually used a grease gun, and I've got a little fitting that I've made up where I can attach a grease gun directly to the caliper banjo fitting and use the manual pressure created in the grease gun, which is pretty bloody high actually, to fill the caliper void, the hydraulic chamber full of grease, and then pump the piston out. But the problem with that is you end up with loads of grease inside the caliper you've got to clean out, and it's a bit of a waste of grease, to be honest, because you shouldn't really reuse it. So, without further ado, we should make a start. Do I do a little drawing first? I think we should. We'll do a little drawing to give you some idea of what we're aiming at. Here we go. Right, this could all go tragically wrong because I'm drawing it off the cuff, so it may not be exactly what we end up with. But we're going to need to mount it to the device first of all. It needs to be securely mounted because there's lots of leverage. So I was going to use a bit of that sort of box section that's been cut into C-channel, and we'll mount that down the bottom. And it only really needs to be as wide as the vise, I think. So there's your C-channel. And then we're going to mount, I think the master cylinder is sort of going to hang off the end here a little bit. So there's your master cylinder. It's got basically a flange on this end, and you've got the reservoir, you know, up here basically. How's it look? Yeah, sort of like that. There's your reservoir, that plastic reservoir that fills with the fluid, and the cap goes on there. And this mounts via 2 bolts, and they're a bit of an odd placement. One's down here, one's over there. We're looking 2-dimensional, but that's how it's going to look. So we're going to need a plate, a vertical plate, to mount that. So I thought I'd use some more of this, and maybe if there's enough clearance, which I think there probably will be, we can mount some more of that channel vertically, you know, in that sort of orientation there, and then we'll taper it back to give it some support. Obviously there'll be a lot of welding going on, or a bit of welding. So that's sort of, we've got the push rod sticking out there with the coupling on it, just there. Now, I could put the lever up top, but that's going to be relatively hard to use. So I want the lever to come out the side, so we'll rotate that 90 degrees, because it does twizzle in the master cylinder. You can actually just rotate that to wherever you want, which is pretty cool. So we'll do that. And then, so the lever's going to be coming towards me on the diagram. So if we draw another diagram over here, where we've got the plate sat, so we're looking down on the actual tool now. So you've got the box, the C channel, there's the section, look, just there. And then we're going to have this piece of box section sticking up, which is probably going to be around about here. There we are, look, like that. And then you've got the master cylinder sort of going up to it like this. It's got the little flange on there. The reservoir is going to be about here, and the output pipe is somewhere about there. So that's the output pipe there, look. These are the 2 bolts. There's your push rod, and the push rod is going to be, once it's turned, the bolt will be like that. So then we're going to need, off the side of this piece probably, an arm or plate that comes out like that with a hole in it, which then allows us to have the lever. Now there may not be too much clearance, so I might have to do like a bit of a dog leg lever, so we'll just extend that across like that, put the hole here, and then you've got the arm, and obviously running out of cardboard, so we'll just do that. There's your arm. That's basically what's going to be used by the user, and that's probably going to be pretty long because we need lots of leverage. So I want to keep that distance between those 2 pivots there relatively small, and this distance here from there, this pivot point that goes onto the push rod out to the end of the lever, you know, relatively long, probably, well, maybe 1:10 ratio to give us leverage down there. So if that was, let's say, you know, 5 centimeters, then the lever wants to be 50 centimeters from that point, and that will give us some really good leverage to push that push rod in and create lots of pressure in that master cylinder. Now there's one more thing we need on this little gizmo, and that's somewhere just to hang the caliper so we can watch the pistons coming out, because we need to know when to stop. We don't want it sat on the bench. I think it'd be ideal to have it mounted on there. So there may be another bracket will go on somewhere just to hang the caliper just off a single bolt so we can see what's going on. Well, that's the plan. Let's see how it's going to turn out. Oh, about 130 mil, I reckon. Just slightly longer than the jaws on the vise. There we go. Where's my square? Easy. Excellent. Right, so we've got the base, about 130mm long, and that will clamp nicely in the vise. No problem at all there. If it's not strong enough, I'll beef it up. And then we now need a similar piece that's going to go up here. So we've got that bit for down the bottom, and we'll cut another piece, oh, that way around, sorry, terrible, to basically replace that bit. So there you go. So how tall does that need to be? Well, I don't know. Let's have a little look. That's going to sit in that orientation. Where's my verniers? There we go. Reset that. Right. So it needs to sit. Right, it says about 85. So yeah, if we do that, it'll be away from the welds. I would say 90mm should be just fine. Right, we'll cut another piece, 90mm long. Cool, and we need a taper to come down from there. So we can add that now and save a cut. Oh, let's do it from after the fold. That'll work. A bit neater. Okay. That's one. That's the piece we need. Now, it's not often I do fabrication videos, and the ones that I have done haven't been very popular. So I'm going to be doing this more of a montage, so you're not going to see the whole thing. I'll just chop it right down, just so you can see various bits. But we've now got the base, and if it's going to stand up, it's almost 90 degrees, isn't it? And that's going to sit somewhere near the back there, look. And we've got some holes to drill to mount this. Now, obviously, I want to drill the holes before I weld it to this. So I've got some marking out to do. Geez, let's hope I get it right. Golly, one chance at this one. I want to get this angle just right so the reservoir sits level. I don't want it off to an angle, otherwise it's going to reduce the amount of fluid we can get in there. So, old woodworking tool. I'm just going to stick that. So let's see how I'm going to do this. Stick it like that, look. And then we can lay this, hard working on the camera, lay this across the threads, and then line this bit up with the side of the actual reservoir. There. That looks pretty good. So that should give us the angle. We'll lock that off. Perfect. We've got the angle we need now. Looks about 45 degrees. Now, I want this part, the push rod part, to be bang in the middle of this plate. I don't want it offset because it'll look a bit crap. So we need to find the centre line of this, what was box section, this bracket now. So it's going to be about there. And this is all, you know, approximate, isn't it, really? So let me get up here. Because this is 100mm box. Now, where's my square? Assuming that my cuts are square. That's the question. And I always like to just make sure by looking at the piece before I scribe it off. Super. Right, now I don't want the whole thing to be too far down because there'll be a line of weld, there'll be some weld around here, so what we'll do is we'll just put another little line across there to, because we made it slightly longer, we'll just say that that's the no-go zone across there, look. Give us some room for the weld. Okay, so what have we got left? Well, let's have a little look. Oh, look at that, 80 mil. Right, so 40 will be great for the center point for that, for the large hole we need to do in the middle. There we are, look, that's that one. And that needs to be, let's have a little look, see if we've got a hole saw the right size as well, I suppose. If we make it 27, it'll have a bit of a clearance, 26.6, so we'll look for 27. So we'll just mark that on there. In fact, see if we've got a white pen, see if it'll stand out better. Just so I know what we're doing, just remind me for later on. There we go, look, 27, right. Now, from there, that's how it's going to sit. We need to measure that 45 across. So this is where our infamous tool comes in. And we can just put that across there, assuming that's 90 degrees. Pretty sure it is. In fact, let's do it properly. There we go, look. Okay. So somewhere along that line are going to be our two mounts. Now, that's how it's going to sit again. There we go, look, like that. So if we measure from here, there, look, off that ridge. So 14.89 off the edge of here, and we know that that's 20, what was it, 26.6? Yeah, 26.6, so half of that is 13.3. So 13.3, first of all, both sides is our hole, isn't it? So we'll set that up just to get an approximate. 13.3, there it is, damn it. Ooh, sorry, camera. Remember, this is only approximate. We're not going to Mars. There we go. So that's our 13.3 either side. So that's roughly where the hole saw is going to finish, he says. Hole saws are not accurate, are they? Okay. So from there, on this one, we measured it up. Oh, come back. Turned it off, Mr. Young. What's going on? There we go. We need a further 14.85. Oh, take that off. Right, from there to there, and that's the start of our 8mm hole. Okay, so we need to add another 4mm onto there because our hole's going to be here, you see. That's not the, that's the edge of the hole, so we need to go 4mm in, and we're going to, well, say 4.5, and we'll drill it 9mm to give us a bit of clearance. Alright, so 4.5mm. Again, it's only approximate, isn't it? And yes, I could do some sums, but was it 4.5, wasn't it? There we go, near enough. Right. So we'll stick another 4.5mm on there. Great stuff. So that's going to be one of our holes. I'm just going to put a dot just to remind me of the centre punch. That's one. And then we're just going to mark out the hole for this side as well. Yeah, looks pretty good. Right, so we've already marked this bit, so we just need to measure the distance again. From here to here. approximately. Okay, 22.5, and we could add the 4.5 straight away, couldn't we? So 22.5 add 4.5 is 23, add 4 is 27, so I'll take that up to 27. There we go, nearest damn it. And then we can add that one on there to eliminate any kind of errors, and that was 13.3. So 27 add 13 is 40, so it's going to be 40.3. Wow, not bad for sums in your head this time in the morning. There we go, that's near enough. Right. So the centre of this second hole should be, just double check that. Yeah, about there. Great. Got some holes to drill. Before I forget, let me just do this, because I'm dab hand for welding things on the wrong way around. Well, we best centre punch them. It's the only way to get them right, isn't it? You can't just drill a hole without centre punching it. Ready for the earthquake? That's one. And now for the centre one. This is the one we've got a hole saw, I think. And the last one. And no, I haven't rechecked my measurements off camera, so this could be terribly wrong. Great stuff. Right, holes to drill. Oh yeah. God, got to teach Ben how to sharpen drill bits. Perfect. Right, we're going to go up to 8.5 mil on these two for the studs, and that one is going to be attacked by the hole saw in the pillar drill. Actually, I lied. We're going to go for 9 mil because Ben's lost the 8.5 mil. It's not in the box. So here we go. Oh, jeez. Ooh, please be sharp. Right, let's get rid of those burrs. Much larger drill bit. That's one. Two. Easy. Steaming up. Concentrating. Yeah, sorry about the drill bits. I will reprimand Benjamin a bit later on. I need a new glove look too, as well as died. So, we're getting there. That's basically all the markings out, done. We've drilled the two outer holes. Will it fit? We can't really test it because the push rod's in the way. So we need to go across to the pillar drill now, and we're going to drill out the centre. Hopefully, what was it? About 27 mil. Really, it's only a clearance hole. Doesn't matter if it's a little bit bigger. So I'll see what I've got that's the same or slightly larger. Now I do warn you, the pillar drill is very noisy. Right, let's see what we've got. Zero the thingamajig. What size is that one? And they always seem to cut a little bit bigger. That's 42. It's a bit too big, I reckon. But that one, it's already on the arbor as well. 29.6. Okay, maybe. I've got any smaller ones? There's one, look. What's that? 24. Too small. Okay, let's use this one. Right, let's use a bit of wood under there. There's our plate. Jeez, it could all go tragically wrong. There's not a lot holding it by my fingers. I told you it was loud. Told you. Ooh, almost there. Oh, that was close. Mole grips. Oh. Never learn, Mr. Young. Never learn. There we go. Always think safety. Done. Great stuff. Let's go see if it fits now. Still got all my fingers. It's not the worst I've done, believe me. Okay, there we go. The plate's out. So the question is, I've not cleaned it up. There's a few burrs and stuff. I'll do all that. The question is that going to fit on now? Actually, I'm not sure if that piece is going to fit through there. No, it's not. So I've got to have to disassemble it and just take off this end piece, which is it's only got a lock nut on it. So I'll do that now, and then we'll see if it's going to all line up. Always living dangerously, mate. That's the problem. Okay, that was pretty damn loose, wasn't it? Actually slacking it off. Yeah. There we go. Lock nut's loose. Okay. So a pair of pliers now, just to hold the shaft, and they've put us a nice little knurl bit on there to hold it, so that's pretty good. There we are, easy. We can leave the lock nut on, that's fine. Okay, push that down. Do we want that down? Yeah, they've got a little recess, so we can leave that in place, that's alright. Almost. There we go. Has to fit now. Isn't that what washers are made for? There we go, look. Fantastic. Great stuff. Yes, I was a little bit out on my holes, wasn't I? That's strange. It's not like me. Now the question is, shall I keep that boot? I'm not sure about that. I might just take the boot off actually. Not really a fan of. So I'll cover it in brake. There we go. That'll work. Okay, so I need to find some washers and some nuts to hold that in place. But before we do that, I'm going to need to weld this onto that base plate. Time for the MIG. Nice slow wire speed, hardly any splatter. Ooh, it's still a bit warm, but we can get it put back together now, I think. Right, a couple of washers because the threads don't go all the way down. So we'll stick all the washers in there. And then, without burning our fingers too much, there we go, awesome. Oh, I can't wait to see this in action. Should be good. Right, 13mm spanner. Okay, well, we can put this back on again now. And it wants to be, well, it doesn't matter because we can turn it anyway. There we go. Lock those two together. Done. Right, we've even got the pin, look, fantastic. So all we need now is a bracket to come off here that's going to give us that lever. So we need to measure the travel, and well, we'll mark the hole up so that when this is pushed all the way in, the lever is about 90 degrees to the box section. So it's going to start out here somewhere and come to about here. That should work brilliantly. Right. Time to work out the throw. Okay, so we'll push that in. And we'll just measure how far away this pin is from this face when it's all the way in. 0. There we go. Right, push it all the way in. Oh, there goes the fluid. And probably, yeah, about there. 70 millimeters. Wonderful. Okay, so we need a bracket to come off here with a hole 70 millimeters from this face. Well, that's easy enough, isn't it? Right, so about in line with the center. Well, it wants to be bang in line, doesn't it, really? So about there for this purpose. And it's going to weld on the back there. I might even put a stay at this end if we see it flex too much, because this is only sort of 3mm box. Okay, so we'll get it about there. Oh, there's already a line there for us. Okay, I reckon about there. Now, this plate actually doesn't want to sit bang in the centre line of this, because we're going to put the lever on top, and it's the lever that needs to line up with the centre line. So what we'll do is we'll put this surface here, just below, on the bottom side of that line there, look. In fact, just slightly below, I think, because obviously the plate's got a thickness to it. So we'll work all that out. What I want to mark up at the moment is just how far that plate's going to protrude from that surface there, look. There we go. So we need to do 70 millimeters out to the hole. Easy. I think the hole doesn't want to be in the middle. I think we could do it maybe slightly over to one side, because this is quite a hefty plate. Right. I don't want to be tempted to use the little hole that's already there. So we'll just go with the middle of that. It's always very adjustable because I haven't welded it on yet. So that's our start point for the face on there, and we want 70 millimeters across there. So where's my little ruler gone? There he is. Right, 70 millimeters. There we go. It's got some good paint on this steel. Okay. And that's the side, this is the top, and that's the bit we're going to weld. So how far in are we going to come with the hole? It doesn't really matter too much, but I was going to do it biased to this side. So it's a 50mm plate, so let's do it 20mm as the centre point. There we go. Right, centre punch. And there he is. Wait for the earthquake. Right, another hole to drill. What size bolt should we use? Oh, I think a 10mm bolt would be ideal. Plenty of beef to it. About a 5.5, I think it is. There we go. Right, safety protection. Bolt there? Yes, we are. Right, I've got to lower the deck down a little bit, I think, for the bigger drills. That'll work. It's a glorious day outside, it really is. Okay. 10mm drill. Right, before I can weld that plate on, I want to really work out exactly where it needs to go, because I don't want the thing to be all to cock. So I will go with about that for the centre line, for the centre of that circle here, look. And then from there, yes, I could take it off and use a square, but I really haven't got time for that. We can just extend that out. You see how far off I was, look. That's how you get discrepancies. Right, so this plate needs to sit, that's the top there, look. It needs to sit basically in line with that line, less half the thickness of the lever. And I'm going to use the same metal as the lever. So, I think this is 5mm plate. Oh no, it's bigger than that. Oh, look at that. 6mm there is, damn it. Okay, so 6mm plate, so we need to be 3mm below that line. I can do that. I can do 3mm. There we are, look. Okay, so that plate needs to sit about, the surface of the plate needs to sit about 3mm below that centre line. God, it's getting very technical, isn't it? Okay, let's go and weld that on. Right, we'll just tack it first, just to check it's in the right place, because it's reasonably critical. Right, needs a bit of a tweak. It's pretty parallel. That surface to here parallel, so maybe a little bit of a tweak up. Good. Final check. I'll go with that. It's good enough for me. Whoa, we're cooking on gas now. Right, so we'll pull that pin out of there. Try not to lose it because it's quite useful. Get the R-clip out. And the pin. Okay, so the next job is we're going to use, where's it gone? A bit more of this bar, basically, to go on there and create our lever. So, we need to work out the distance from the centre point of that circle, that hole, to the centre point of this, so we can drill that on our bar next. And then, oh, we're not far off, are we really? And then it's cup of tea time, I reckon. Okay, so again, only approximate. I'm just going to hold that there, which is about in its correct position. And it's all very approximate because the lever will just end up in the right place. $79. Centre line. You tell me if I'm right or not. I reckon 79 should work. But then again, as it comes round, it's going to push this to one side. So maybe it should start off a little bit more that way. So maybe we should push it all the way in and measure the distance, and then it'll stick, because it does allow some movement, but I'd like it to be dead straight when it's all the way in. So let's push it all the way in. There we go. And we'll measure it at that point without burning our fingers too much. Okay. $72.5. That'll work perfectly. Right, so it'll start off slightly over here, and as it gets pushed in, it'll line up. 72.5. Great. Dum 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 dum. Almost cup of tea time. Right, so we don't want, obviously the hole can't be at the end, so we need a bit of an overlap. It doesn't really matter what it is. So let's go for what, 20 mil? 30 mil? 30 mil, because it'll give it more of a bearing surface. 30 mil from there. Yeah, maybe even 40 mil actually. Let's give it 40 mil. Approximately. Now, where's my square? There he is. And then we said 72.5, didn't we? 72.5. 71, 2.5. My eyesight is crap these days. All the welding, I think, over the years. Okay. I think let's describe it in sharpen that. Okay, so that's going to be the two lines for our holes. Now we said we wanted a bar to give us about 10 times the leverage. Well, we've got 72.5 there, so realistically it should be about 72 centimeters sticking out that way. Let's see what we've got. Where's my tape measure? Oh, 70. That'll do. It's near enough, isn't it? So we don't need to cut the bar down at all. This is going to be the full length of the lever. Okay, well before we can mark out the holes, we need to know how deep this throat is, because if we drill the hole too far down on the bar, on the flat plate, then of course it's not going to fit in there. This end doesn't matter too much, but we'll make both of them the same, I think. Yeah, keep them in line. So, just offering that up on there. That's where that hole's going to be. That's where that hole's going to be. You know, there's the angle as well, so we really can't go too far. I don't want it touching. So probably somewhere around about there, which is, where's my measure? My little measuring stick. About 10 mil. Okay, that'll work. So 10 mil in from the end is where the holes need to be. If we did that hole further round, then the bar wouldn't be dead straight when it finishes. So 10 mil on either end. That was easy enough, wasn't it? I'm very good at drilling holes in the wrong place. You've seen that already. 10 mil. 10 mil. And this is going to be the top. So we better write top on there, just to remind me. Right, time for some more earthquakes. There we go. Oh, my ears are ringing now. Okay, and that one we're going to make 10 mil hole. And this one needs to be whatever the pin is. So what's the pin? 0, 8. Well, that was easy, wasn't it? Okay, so this one needs to be 8. We can do that. Right, back to the pillar drill. That's the 10. We'll need that later on. Let's go back to the 5.5 just to start off with. And I'll make sure I tighten it up properly in the chuck this time. Jeez. These chucks are not particularly good. I like the Jacobs chucks, but nothing I have here anymore has a Jacobs chuck, so when I get round to replacing them, I'm going to get Jacobs chucks put in. This is probably some Chinese thing. JT, no idea. Okay, where's my safety glasses? Let's do this. Right, we'll do both 8mm. So close. I keep saying that, don't I? Right, so first job, I think, is to pop through. We'll do it that way around, I think. The bolt, pop that in there. We'll just stick a nut down temporarily for now. Not too tight. Then we can drop the pin in. Again, I won't bother with the R-clip just yet. Oh! And, hey presto, we've got some leverage. That's what we need. Okay. Oh, works pretty well actually, doesn't it? You can see that that push rod is very slightly pulled this side when it's fully open. You know, not applied, but when it comes in, pretty much lines up. Maybe slightly the other side, so it's pretty good actually. Very happy with that. I've got a lock nut to go on there so we can adjust the play on that pivot. It's a bit excessive at the moment. There we go, look, that's better. What's next? Well, I need to put a bracket on this end to support, I think, that bar there, because that plate, because it's only welded at one end and it could flex around a bit, so I'll organise that. Yeah, so we just need somewhere where we can mount this, just give us an arm sticking off with a hole in it so we can put a bolt through and it'll support the caliper from the underside. Where can we put that? Geez, I should have made that a bit longer. If I had, I wouldn't have had enough for this bar, I think. Okay, so probably somewhere around about there would be good, because then you can see what's going on, or maybe even like that. Yeah, so you can see what's going on, because you need to be able to see what's going on, and it's going to dribble fluid out, so it wants to hang over the end so we can put a container underneath to catch all the fluid when that piston pops out. Good thinking, Mr. Yo. After much deliberation, because we're sort of beyond the original design specs now, I didn't go that far into the drawing, so I'm sort of winging it at the moment. I've come up with a pretty ingenious plan, so bear with me, people. It's going to involve another bit of this. So I'm going to cut this down and, well, I'll crack on and you'll see what we end up with. Here we go. Right. Time for a new disc on that angle grinder, I think. Where's my scriber? Nothing safe around here, is it? There we go. Can you tell what it is yet? I reckon you can. Pretty good to me. Bloody good. Right, where's that lever? Have a look. God, I'm getting hungry now. Come on, you came out of there. Oh, welding splatter again. There he is. Jeez. Every time. And the pin. Okay, you can see how it's going to work. It's all coming together. We've got a catchment tray for the fluid, and all that's left to do now is just to drill a hole in the side here to mount the caliper. And this same backing plate has also provided some support to this plate here for the lever mount. Now obviously all calipers are different, so it's probably going to end up with a few different holes down here, but I think if we go for maximum extension, and we'll drill one, I don't know, about there somewhere, and that'll do for this caliper, won't it? And over time we'll end up with all the right, you know, a selection of holes. That should work. It's only approximate. We'll do it at 8mm, and that should fit most sliders. And we'll just deburr it while we're on. Super job. Where's that caliper? Here we are, let you see. So we'll just find a bolt, pop it in there, maybe that way around, then we can bleed it up, can't we? Yeah, that'll work. Excellent. In fact, let's go the other way, even better. There we go. Can't go far at that. Okay, so all that's left to do now is to make up a hose that's going to go from the back of this caliper and round to the mass cylinder. It wants to be, you know, a little bit longer because it's going to have to fit onto lots of different kinds of calipers. And obviously we've got that issue with the flexing going on, so the longer it is, the easier it is to flex. Right, I've had a little brainwave. Just before I fly off and get a sandwich for my lunch, I'm going to make up that brake line as a separate video. So if you want to see how to make up the brake lines using these kind of fittings, and that's the full kit, and this one's made by, who's it made by? Factory Image, but there's lots and lots of different ones out there, and of course you'll need some braided line too. So I'll do a separate video on how to make up that brake line for this piece of kit, so that when I come back after lunch on this video, you'll see it already made, if that makes any sense. Okay, right, lunch. See you shortly. Right, I'm back from my lunch, and I've just finished making the video on making up the braided hose for this contraption, and hopefully that video will be helpful to you too. So next step is to bleed it up and see if we can get that piston pumped out of the caliper. Right, first job is to put some fluid in. I think we can get rid of the little float, get rid of that. Don't need that anymore. And needs a bit of a clean out. Where's my rag? Old parts. Excellent stuff. Right. Some fresh brake fluid. Stick that in there. And we'll need a spanner for the bleed nipple. There we go. And of course the beer bottle for collecting the old fluid. There we go. Right. Well, only one way to find out. Bleed nipple open, closed. We're watching for the fluid going down in the reservoir to start off with. Oh, it's going down. I can hear bubbles. Go. Fantastic. Right, more fluid required. Alright, I can start pumping now. Doesn't need to be completely fully bled, which is a bonus. Not for this job. There we go. Right, we'll stick the cap on, just to be on the safe side. Right, time to watch the piston come out. Now, this should catch all the fluid when the piston finally pops out, so we'll put a little catchment piece under there. Fingers crossed it's going to work. So there's your piston. We should see that coming across this way. Oh, look at that. So easy. We can actually see the piston retraction as well, where the piston's going back in, about 1/2 mil or so. You'll keep an eye on the fluid level in the reservoir as well. Almost there. Good idea for eye protection at this point, just in case the fluid sprays out of that boot. I think we're there. We are. That's it. Wonderful. Okay, so we should be able to extract that piston now. Hopefully. They're a good fit. There we are. Ready for the fluid. Oh, it's pretty tough on that boot. Ta-da! Fantastic. Oh, we got most of the fluid. Excellent. Piston out. I call that a success. Great job. Well, hopefully you found that helpful. I certainly found it very helpful for my workshop. I've now got a tool that I've made that I can extract pistons from pretty much any kind of caliper. Yeah, so what really started off as, you know, a bit of a sort of fag packet drawing turned out to be pretty close to what we ended up with. A few slight modifications near the end to catch the fluid and to mount the caliper, but all that was pretty simple stuff. But the point is, we got the piston out, and that's what it's all about, rather than doing it on the vehicle. And I can recycle that fluid, the brake fluid that I use, because all I'm going to be doing is popping the piston out and then cleaning all the parts up. So it's not like I'm using the fluid in the vehicle, so it's not going to cost too much either. And there's no cleaning up time, you know, as regards getting all the grease out of the caliper, like I was doing before out of the caliper body after I'd used the grease gun. So I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, crew, well, if you found the video helpful, and I don't know how long it could be, this one, it could be a pretty long video. It took me probably about 3 hours all up to make that contraption. If you found it helpful, why not click on the subscribe button? You'll see a little gear icon turn up. Click on the gear icon, and then you can tick the box and turn on notifications, and our friends down at YouTube will send you an email as and when I upload any new videos. And it's not often I do this kind of stuff on my channel, but this time around I wanted to make one, and I thought I'd take you along on the journey. And I'm sure there'll be a few comments on how I could have done things differently, but please, you know, add them down the bottom. Anybody looking to make one of these can include your ideas as well. I don't think there's any rights and wrongs with this kind of stuff. It's just really your own personal preference, and I'm really happy with what I've made. And it cost me nothing. That's the trick to it. Am I going to bother painting it? Probably not, to be honest with you. Maybe the top end where the master cylinder is, but there's no point in painting that runner that catches the fluid, because you know what brake fluid does to paint? It takes it straight off again. Sure does. Now, you'll also find me on Facebook, Instagram, Google+, and Twitter. Feel free to communicate through any of those portals. However, first point of contact, if you don't mind, through the comments on YouTube, because that's where the videos are, and that's usually where I am too. Now, there's also a Patreon page. You can drop onto there and find out all about how the Andy Mechanic YouTube channel came to be. Bit of a strange history. It wasn't really planned, it just sort of happened. It evolved, like, well, quite a lot of things in this world. You can also find out about future projects coming up. And of course, if you want to make a donation, you can do that through that portal. Alright chaps, well, until next time, see you around. Cheers, over and out.